Okay, this is lesson 8.4 for PreAlgC, direct variation. The objectives of this lesson are to find the constant of variation and to write a direct variation. So a direct variation is just a linear function. So we've talked about linear functions, right, where they're lines, and we had them of the form y equals mx plus b. Direct variation is just a number times x. So it's basically where our b is 0, and that's gone. Instead of m, it's k, because the k is called the constant of variation, so for these specific ones. So direct variation here is of the form y equals kx. So some constant, some number times x. And that number is called, the coefficient k is the constant of variation. So let's look at an example of these. Here we have a table of values that models a direct variation. Find the constant of variation. So what this means is we have a bunch of different points here, right? If it's of the form y equals kx, this is my x when this is my y. So if I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, 0 equals 0. Okay, that doesn't help us solve k. So let's go to the next one. We plug in 2 for x, y equals 3. And then if you divide both sides by 2 to get k alone, k equals 3 over 2. And we can try that for one more point just to make sure that works. Y is 9 when x is 6. So if we divide both sides by 6, k equals 9 over 6. They both have a 3 in it, so we could divide both by 3, and that becomes 3 over 2 equals k. So our answer is k equals 3 over 2. Okay, so try this one on your own. Push pause in the video. Set up your direct variation formula, this y equals k times x, and then see if you can figure out what the constant of variation is. What's your k? Just pick a point, and you can see in the last one, don't pick 0, because that just cancels everything out. It's 0, 0 is always going to be a point. But use the other 3 points, or at least just use 2 points. Pick one, try it out, and then check it with another one to make sure you did it right. And the reason why we know that it has a k that's the same is because it's telling us that it's a direct variation. So that's how we can find our k. So push pause and then try it on your own, and then check back for the solution. Okay, hopefully you got k equals 4 over 3. So you can see here I used 3 over 4, 3, 4 points to plug in my 4 for y and my 3 for x, divided both sides by 3, and got 4 over 3 for k. And then I double checked it by plugging in 9 and 12. Divided both sides by 9, and 12 divided by 9 is the same as 4 over 3. You could also use the calculator and have a decimal, which is fine. And just some notes at the bottom here. You can use the constant of variation to write a direct variation. In a direct variation, you say y varies directly with x. So that's how a lot of these word problems are going to be written. And let's look at that example. So example 2, we have a word problem that says your weight W on Earth's surface varies directly with your weight M on Mars. Right, so, and then a person weighing, and then they give us an example. So let's look at this. In direct variation, you say Y varies directly with X. So in this case, we say W varies directly with M. So that means my W is my Y and my M is my X. And our formula, right, this formula is Y equals kx. So this means W equals some constant k times m, the mass. So a person weighing 120 pounds on Earth weighs about 40 pounds on Mars. So W is Earth and m is Mars. It says about how much does a person 180 pounds weigh on Mars. So with the same thing, we're going to figure out the constant of variation so then we can plug in for our answer. So a person weighing 120 on Earth, that's my W. So let's plug in 120 for W. We don't know what our constant of variation is yet. And on Mars, they'd weigh 40 pounds. So we plug those in. And we want to get k alone. So we divide by 40 on both sides. So this is k, and then 120 divided by 40 is just 3. So if you do 120 divided by 40, you get 3. So that means my equation here is W equals 3m. So someone on Earth weighs 3 times whatever you would weigh on Mars. And so if the question here is about how much does a person weighing 120 on Earth, so we put it, 180, plug in 180 for W, is 3 times what on Mars? So then we solve that. We put our tracks around our equal sign, we find our variable, and then we undo what's happening. Divide both sides by 3, so M is now alone. And 180 divided by 3 is 60. So they weigh 60 pounds on Mars. Okay, so try this one on your own. How much does a person weighing 75 pounds on Mars weigh on Earth? And so remember it wasn't Y that we used, it was weigh on, and Earth is 3 times Mars. So use that to solve for, use that equation to solve for a person weighing 75 pounds on Mars. What do they weigh on Earth? So press pause and try this on your own, and check back for the solution. Okay, hopefully you got that they weighed 225 pounds on Earth if there's only 75 pounds on Mars. Right, so in this case, this 75 pounds was my M, so we plugged it in for this M and multiplied it by 3 to get what they weighed on Earth. Okay, and then our last example, example 3, is going to be writing our own equation for a direct variation that includes the point -4, 3. So remember our equation looks like this: y equals some constant times x. If we have one point, remember our points are x, comma y. We can just plug that in and figure out what our k is. So let's plug in 3 for y. That equals some constant of variation times -4. And then let's solve by putting our tracks around our equal sign, finding our variable, and then we see it's being multiplied by -4, so we're going to divide by -4 on both sides. So k is alone here, and this is -3/4. If you put that in your calculator, maybe we'll do decimal this time, -0.75. So that's our k. So the equation, remember, was y equals kx, but now we have our k, so this is going to be y equals -0.75x. That is our equation. So we really just need to find k and then put it back into the equation and use that point to find k. So try this next one on your own. Press pause in the video, see if you can figure out the equation, right? You just have to use this form, find your k, and then plug that k into that equation. So push pause, try it on your own, and check back for the solution. Okay, and hopefully you got this equation, y equals -5 divided by 3 times x. Or if you use the decimal. For this one, I don't really like using the decimal since it's repeating. And so that means you'd have to round it. But if you did get, it would be something like -1.67x, which isn't exactly perfect because you have to round it. So I would prefer this answer, but if you got something like this, that's fine. So then try the homework, page 407, 6 through 11 all, and then have a great break.